Europe in the 19th century needed raw materials to feed her growing industries. She needed more land to feed her growing population and on which to settle the thousands for whom there was no longer room at home. Centuries of exploitation by slave traders and others had proved that all these demands could be met on the African continent. Armed with trinkets for trade and rifles to crush resistance, the Europeans descended upon Africa. But it was not easy. There was resistance. These centuries of piecemeal European exploitation led to a violent scramble for Africa. At Berlin in 1888, these quarrels were ended in formal partition treaties. In this, the Somali people were possibly least fortunate of all, as their country was divided 4 ways between Britain, France, Italy, and Ethiopia. However, the Somalis did not submit themselves to the colonial powers so easily. The dervish movement, or revolution, took up arms in rebellion against the colonial invader. Their leader was the remarkable Sayyid Muhammad Abdullah Hassan. From 1899 to 1922, this giant of independence sustained a running battle on 3 fronts against British, Italians, and Ethiopians. In his war of liberation, tens of thousands of dervishes perished to defend their homeland against the foreign intruders. Of course, many battles they lost, but many others they won. One famous victory was the Battle of Dolmadobe in August 1913, where the British Major Richard Caulfield was killed. Sayyid Muhammad's many poems record both his victories and defeats. You are dead now, Caulfield. No longer of this world. A voyage without mercy was your portion when bound for hell you left for the beyond. If God so wills it, those in heaven will question you. When you see the companions of the faithful and the jewels of heaven, answer them how God has tried you. Say to them, from that day to this, the dervish assault has never weakened. Nor, as his poems show, did Sayyid Muhammad lack the courage to admit his defeats. Here he complains at his countrymen's failure to join with the dervishes, warns them of the subtle tricks of colonialism, and concludes that his past victories and present setbacks are no more than the natural ups and downs of life itself. Suffer a serious setback. The years between 1922 and 1943 allowed the colonialists to settle down and rest. Now his prophecy of colonial evils came true. And once again, Somali heroes had to fan the flames of freedom in 1943. On the 15th of May, 1943, 13 youths formed the Somali Youth League. They struggled 17 years for freedom, both on the battlefield and in the political arena. Finally, on June the 26th, 1960, Britain withdrew from the Somali Protectorate. And on the day the Italians left, July the 1st, 1960, the Somali Republic was declared with 5 million people and a land area of 262,000 square miles. The longed-for day of freedom had dawned at last. But what would it bring? Political independence was won, but the colonial masters still lingered in the wings. The dream of national unity was shattered by the intrigues of countless rival political parties. The country, with its 2,000-mile coastline, was left undeveloped. Neither the resources of the sea nor those of the land itself were put to use. While the politicians wrangled, exploiting public funds and foreign aid, the people awoke from their dream of independence to a reality closer to nightmare. And the politicians' answer to their complaints? Yet more political parties. And the people's lives continued as before. Unable to help themselves or change the course of events, they became poor, disheartened, apathetic. It was the nomads, the country's largest social group, who suffered worst. Their life in a cruel scrub environment had been harsh for centuries. To them, independence had promised a golden age of water and green pastures. Yet independence had come and brought them nothing. No change at all. Every political party boasted its own homespun insignia in lip service to a national commitment. But in the pitifully few schools of the country, the language and cultures were still foreign, English or Italian. Debate raged over when and how Somali language and culture could be introduced, yet it remained only debate.
Serpente, sedia, sabbia, sapone, serpente, sedia, sabbia, sasso.
By now, Somalia had almost 90 political parties. At the March election of 1969, 74 of them put up 2,214 candidates to contest 123 parliamentary seats.